All right, folks, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA, and this is my stimulus update for Wednesday, December 30th. Nancy Pelosi held a press conference this morning, her last one of the year. I watched the whole thing. Wasn't too interesting. I'll tell you more about it later. There's a Q&A section, and one of the last questions was probably the most interesting question of the whole thing. But first things first, I was overjoyed to hear that Treasury started sending out stimulus payments yesterday via direct deposit. I made a quick video here on the channel when I saw that press release from Treasury. Link up here as well as in the description to see that video. But of course, as many of you say, you won't believe it until the money is in your bank account. And I was happy to see many commenters saying that they have received their stimulus payments, $600, $1,200, $1,800, $2,400, $3,000, whatever, obviously depending on your family size. I saw many folks commenting that they received their payment yesterday evening, and that's wonderful. But let us all know in the comments this morning if you have received yours yet or if you are still waiting. So that's the news on the $600 stimulus payment for the $2,000 stimulus payment legislation. The big news yesterday was that to nobody's surprise, Republicans blocked Senator Chuck Schumer's attempt to get unanimous consent for the Cash Act. That is the $2,000 stimulus check bill that passed the House this week. And Mitch McConnell put forth his own $2,000 stimulus check bill, this one including $2,000 stimulus checks for non-dependent adults with no change for dependent children. That's different from the Cash Act, which wants to increase it to $2,000 for the adults and the dependent children. McConnell also added two other things in his legislation, namely a repeal of Section 230, as well as a committee to investigate the integrity of the 2020 federal elections, including the presidential election. I went over McConnell's bill yesterday in a video, link at the top of the screen, as well as in the description below. And the question at this point is this whole $2,000 stimulus check thing, is this all a ruse? And I'm not just talking about Mitch McConnell, because I don't think that Mitch McConnell is the one who had the bright idea to set up a committee to investigate election fraud in the 2020 election. I'm fairly confident that the genesis of that little gem was the mind of Donald Trump. And Trump, in his statement, basically foreshadowed McConnell's legislation when he said in his statement, the Senate will start the process for a vote that increases checks to $2,000, repeals Section 230, and starts an investigation into voter fraud. Trump knew that the Democrats wouldn't go for this, right? If all these things were combined into one piece of legislation, as McConnell has done, Trump knew Democrats were going to go for this. And look at Trump's tweet from yesterday. Unless Republicans have a death wish, and it is also the right thing to do, they must approve the $2,000 payment ASAP. $600 is not enough. Also get rid of Section 230. Don't let big tech steal our country, and don't let the Democrats steal the presidential election. Get tough. So who's he really trying to appeal to here, right? Republicans, who he's talking about a death wish here and whom he has criticized almost as much as he has criticized Democrats recently? Is he trying to appeal to Democrats, who he literally says in this tweet stole the presidential election? And does he really think they're going to go along with this committee, right, that's in this piece of legislation to investigate voter fraud in the 2020 election because he thinks Democrats stole the election? I mean, come on. Or is this just some attempt at trying to make people like him and maybe firing up his base to vote, I don't know, in the Georgia elections? I don't know. But even that's self-defeating because he's being openly critical of Senate Republicans here. It doesn't really make much sense. And let's not leave out Nancy Pelosi. This is the first time she has pushed for $2,000 stimulus checks, right? Not even in a $3+ trillion HEROES Act did she want to give more than $1,200. So, speaking of Pelosi, she did hold a press conference this morning. She opened by expressing her condolences for the family of Congressman-elect Luke Letlow, who passed away yesterday from complications of COVID-19 after a procedure to remove a blood clot as a complication of COVID. Pelosi then gave a brief history of the recently enacted stimulus bill, how the president received the stimulus/government funding omnibus on Christmas Eve, and then finally signed it on Sunday. Pelosi pointed out how the president expressed support for $2,000 stimulus checks, which Pelosi said Democrats madly embraced. She pointed out how the House passed the Cash Act on Monday, sent it over to Mitch McConnell and the Senate, and she said that Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans are holding it up. Pelosi said in blocking this legislation, they are in denial of the hardship that the American people are experiencing now, health-wise, financially, and in every way. Their lives and livelihoods are on the brink. Pelosi said she hopes that in the days ahead, Republicans will see the light and understand the suffering going on in our country. Pelosi said it is amazing to see the patience Republicans have when it comes to other people's suffering. She said these Republicans seem to have an endless tolerance for other people's sadness, and she urged Mitch McConnell to stop his obstruction and to bring the $2,000 stimulus check legislation to the floor of the Senate. Pelosi said it's important to note how important money in the pocket of the American people is. they spend it, they inject demand into the economy. That is job creating, and that's absolutely true. You spend $1 at a local business, that local business uses that dollar to pay its employees, buy more supplies or inventory from other businesses in the area. A business owner might take a portion of it, to get takeout from a restaurant or other local business in the area. It's true, right? Spending stimulates the economy. Pelosi also brought up state and local funding and honoring our heroes through state and local funding, which she said is an important part of what she believes Congress will do next in 2021. She brought up vaccine distribution, how the Trump administration, in her opinion, is holding it up and not running it as effectively as they could be. She said this has to be done better. She hopes that in the last few weeks of the Trump administration, they'll more efficiently conduct themselves on vaccine distribution. Pelosi brought up the disparities in income and equity and said that a new panel called the Select Committee on Economic Disparity, Fairness, and Growth will be instituted in the new Congress. She said that her members are full of exuberance and suggestions, and that some proposed to Pelosi are $2,000 a month stimulus checks, a wage guarantee, the employment retention credit, which we know is already passed. But she closed by reiterating that a $2,000 direct payment to the American people is being held up by Mitch McConnell. In the Q&A, Pelosi was asked about Josh Hawley, saying that he will object to the election certification process, but that wasn't really an interesting question. The interesting question here was a journalist asked Pelosi, time is running out, right, in the current Congress, the 116th Congress, for the $2,000 stimulus check legislation, right? If that legislation dies in this Congress, right, this week, will Pelosi bring it up in the next Congress, right, that begins on January 3rd? Pelosi wouldn't commit, right, to giving a definite answer on that question. Here's a clip.
Yes, sir.
On the stimulus checks, we're hearing on the Senate side that time is running out. Are you going to commit to bringing this idea back of $2,000 checks next week if it does die in this Congress?
Well, let's be hopeful that it can happen this week, because the sooner it happens, the sooner the checks go out. So we're not giving up on it. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, is advocating for it. The Congress, in a bipartisan way in the House, has voted for it. It would have bipartisan support in the Senate if Mitch McConnell would only allow it to come to the floor instead of being an obstruction to those checks going to the American people.
So that's interesting. It's like, does Pelosi want to bring this up again in the next Congress and, debate $2,000 stimulus checks going into Biden's inauguration day? Possibly a risky move. She would not commit to answering that question. My guess is she doesn't want to commit to answering this question yet before the Georgia runoffs. Okay, that's kind of my speculation there. Anyway, folks, that is my update for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.